So welcome to our hot seat for tonight. We have an hour session together. So this is an opportunity, one, to be a part of our Maximum Growth community so that you can enjoy the community spirit of applying the DiMartini method, being part of the personal transformation of an individual who is going to get worked on. And it's also going to be a reflection, and there'll be some lessons and learnings in this for yourself as well. So we have a few people who have already applied to be in the hot seat. You can apply at any time. There's always on their website, you can apply once you have joined the class. There's an application. So this gives you 30 to 40 minutes that you get a session to be worked on of whatever's the most challenging a challenge you've got going on in your life today. So we're going to vote at the end. So we have 4 people who have applied previously, and they're going to share their story in 60 seconds or less. And at the very end, we are going to do a poll, which will then give an opportunity to vote who you'd like to see in the hot seat for today. Then we are going to work on that particular individual who gets the most amount of votes. So let's get started. So Alan, we'll start with you. So what's your biggest challenge, and what would you like to see or experience as an outcome?
Well, one of the biggest challenges I've had most of my life is to do an income generating activity that I like to do. I don't even want to go as far as love, but just like. So most things I've done in my life, they've been, okay. And so, I just haven't had anything I'm thrilled to do other than a couple of hobbies, but I never really thought I could generate some income from that. So I was wondering if I could, if there is something within me that I haven't realized in all this time on Earth.
Okay. So Alan is curious about his purpose and to get paid for something so that he actually enjoys.
That's right. Yeah, actually enjoys. We don't have to go as far as loving, but enjoying would be good.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. So Anna, thanks.
Apologies in advance. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but my challenge is really related to my business. A couple of months ago experienced the greatest level of income in my business, about $50,000, which was really, really great. And I think I got overwhelmed and burnt out in the process. And in the process, I kind of lost my confidence and my momentum. And I'm now in a position where I'm questioning myself, questioning my ability to income generate. And really just, I know my potential, but I've put a mental barrier between me and that potential. So would really love to get back and perhaps even debunk the fantasy of what life was like when I was making all that money. And just get myself back into a state of confidence, self-certainty, and inspiration.
Perfect. Thank you, Anna. David.
How are you going?
Good. Thank you.
I'd like to work on, there's been times in my life where I've had pretty major health stuff, and then my family have been quite violent, hitting me and things. And so generally I felt pretty alone in those times, and kind of that I didn't really feel like I had the perception that I didn't have anyone that really cared if I was, I attend hospital by myself and things. And so generally, felt pretty shit around those times. So I'd like to try to see some of the balance. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And last is Lexi.
I am really nervous. So I just experienced a miscarriage a week ago. And I guess I'm struggling to deal with how I co-created this passing. And just, yeah, I want to understand it a little bit more, and how, because I've got some really big fears around being a mother. I've never really been maternal. And since I met my partner, like, I couldn't think of a better person to raise a child with, and he's filled my heart. And I chose to have a baby when pretty much my whole entire life and never really wanted children. And I just feel like that may have something to do with the co-creation, that, you know, underlying in the deeper levels of things. But yeah, just to better understand what happened, and how to, I guess, look at it in a positive. Yeah.
Okay, so team, we have had 4 people share their stories. So I'm going to put on your screen now, or if you're on your phone, it will also still pop up. So you'll have a question, which is a single choice answer, which is who you'd like to see in the hot seat for today. So you have Alan, who would like to find something that he can do with his time, that he can not as much love, but do something that he really likes and get paid for it. Anna has been in this experience where she has made the most of her money that she's made, but then lost her confidence and lost her drive inside of business, and wants to be able to, one, clear that dynamic so she can get on doing her purpose and what she loves. David's had some challenges around feeling isolated and alone, that he also wants to clear that dynamic. And then Lexi has the dynamic around wanting to understand the miscarriage and the loss of her baby. So you want to vote for who you would like to see in the hot seat. So there's just 4 more people to vote. 1 more. And if you've been the one that has been put your hand up, you also get to vote as well. So you can. I'll just give you like 1 more second. If you have not yet voted, thank you for the last person. All right, so it's quite close. I'm going to share the results, and it is Anna it was very close. But what I want you to also realize is that even if you haven't been the one that has been, if you haven't been selected, that's okay, because there tends to be a dynamic with an entanglement of, I know you all seem to have really different challenges and different issues, but this also will have a degree of synchronicity and something that you can learn and love about your own dynamic inside of this as well. So I want you to still stay present, even if you had put your hand up and the challenge hasn't, your challenge isn't being addressed today. Just know that there will be a dynamic, some insights and lessons that you'll get that will be related to your story. So hang on until the end. If you are witnessing and an observer or listening to the replay of this, you'll also be a part of that entanglement and dynamic as well. So I want you to notice, maybe in your own life, maybe you've wanting to have more purpose, you're wanting to have, more income inside of what you do. So there'll be lessons and learnings in this for you as well. We'll also do an aim to have the surrogate experience at the very end as well. So do stay along for that. We tend to have some nice, beautiful insights, realization, heart open moments for that part of the hot seat as well. So stay on. The very, very end, we also do an after chat, which we tend to go anyway. So hang with us and stay. I'd like to say that we can get this done in 30 to 40 minutes, but sometimes it goes over. So just know that we might run over by about 10 to 15 minutes. So I am during this session going to apply the DiMartini method, which is a systematic process that was created by Dr. DiMartini. I try and follow it as much as I can to the questions, but sometimes I might go off and I might ask her a question that doesn't really relate to the DiMartini method, but the process in itself is what I'm using, is the method. So Anna, I'm just going to pin you so I just see you. During this session, if you want to ask questions, if you notice something that you're like, oh my gosh, that's super interesting, feel free to make it an engaging session as well. So write in the chat, throw your comments. If you've got a question you'd like me to also ask her, also put it in the chat as well. I'll address it. So Anna, but see if you can just stay focused on us, because sometimes the questions coming through can also get a bit distracting. So Anna, well, okay. So paint me a picture. So you say that you'd made your biggest month ever. So tell me, how did that happen? What did you do? And then, yeah. And so paint me a picture, and then what's happened since then?
So the biggest month ever was in July of this year, so a couple of months ago. And it was after a couple of challenging months in the business, and I just seemed to have broken through. I made a huge shift. I had a huge shift with my relationship with my mum, and that gave me a new lease of confidence in my coaching abilities as well. And so I just kept showing up on my social media, and it seemed like I got a floodgate of new business, which is really great. And then August happened, and it was actually, this was June. July and August were really slow months because I had reached my capacity. It was almost like I was working 8 hours every single day, like 8-hour back-to-back phone calls, which, if anyone's a coach, knows how draining that is. And I felt like I had just taken on so much that it was almost like I wanted to signal to the world, I don't want anyone to come into my world anymore. And then I think, what else happened? My relationship with my partner got really rocky at that time as my business jetted up, and I associated a lot of pain to growing my business. And it was almost like my partner and I almost broke up in during that time frame. So for me, it was like, oh, growing my business equates to my partnership breaking down. And so I think there's a belief there that I can't grow unless if I want to retain my relationship. So that was a big thing. And I kind of distinctly remember when we had that conversation, we chose to stay together. That was sort of when I started to diminish myself and make myself small, because I didn't want to keep growing. And so, yeah, I think that played a role in it. I had a couple of networking events that I went to that I lost confidence in myself as well, where I started just questioning myself. And yeah, it overall just started to slowly go down. And
when you say that you were questioning yourself, what specifically were you questioning?
I was comparing myself to other business owners or other people in corporate who were doing what I perceived as amazing, phenomenal, like world-changing things. And I'm like, I'm just a coach. So I was really beating myself down and talking down to myself and thinking, oh, I'm not really doing, like, the thing that I'm doing doesn't have the same level of credibility that other people do. And so I started to really question myself in certain settings.
Okay. So if we were to prioritize between the three dynamics that I can see that you shared with me so far, one of them is that you reach capacity for your amount of sessions that you do, doing 8 hours a day coaching, which was too much. The conflict in between the relationship and the business that's challenging, or the comparison of yourself to others. Which one would you perceive to be the greatest or the biggest or the most in the way of you making and earning money?
I think partner one, because it feels like that one kind of gets in the way of what I perceive as growing my business quite often. And I know we've spoken about it, Tanya, but I do think that's like a big one that I really want to conquer once and for all.
Okay. So, and I asked that because, well, you've given a few things that you have as like growth ceilings, or things that are stuck or challenging you in order to grow your business and to grow yourself and your finances again. And so we've been able to prioritize them this. So if we can work on this today, and we could make a connection so that you don't feel like it's a one or the other, it's like family or your relationship or business, but it could be both. Would that be useful and helpful for you today?
That would be life-changing. Yeah,
okay.
That would be amazing.
Okay. And I'm curious, as the audience, how many people also feel the same thing? Like, if you're going to go and choose a purpose, maybe that's also going to be challenging towards your family life or your home life or your relationship, or there's like this, yeah. So lots of nods. Okay. So what is it that you think? So tell me we can go deeper into this, because I like to hear what's actually going on. Like, I understand that you feel like if you go and grow your business, it's challenging to your relationship, but can you paint me a really deep picture and kind of how that happens? Like, how have you decided that if you grow your business, your relationship falls apart? Or is it if you grow your relationship, your business falls apart? Does it work in reverse?
It works both ways, it feels like. For me, it's almost like the relationship makes me really comfortable, and I don't want to exist outside of that comfort zone. I want to stay feeling good and just having fun and relaxing and chilling out with him, because for me, what I perceive as my work demands a different mode. It demands very fast, quick, very decisive. I move very quickly, and that doesn't seem to be compatible in the relationship dynamic, where we often butt heads when I'm in that mode. So yeah, the story that I have is the relationship just makes me want to stay comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what happens to your business when you get comfortable in your relationship?
I stop paying as much attention to it, or priorities slide. I don't give it the attention that it deserves. I sort of work between a set amount of time. I like to work when I'm in that mode. I can work until 10 p.m. and have all the energy in the world and feel really gratified by the end of the day. But when I'm in more of the relationship mode, it's like, no, relationship time demands that I finish at like 6 o'clock, and then we have dinner together and things like that. So it just feels like it restrains me from being able to do the amount of work that I need to grow my business.
Right. Do you need
to? Yes. Well, I think for the vision that I have, yes.
So I'm curious, is it more hours that's required in order for you to grow your business? Is it because it's a doing model, right? You've got to go do in order to grow your business.
Yeah, that is my model of like my paradigm currently. So yes.
Like hustle and hustle hard is the journey, or not?
Well, this is a really good question, because when I made all that money, I was actually on holiday. It was a working holiday, but I had, massages, and I was spending a lot of downtime, and I made the most amount of money because I was my most magnetic and most abundant, sort of like happiest version of me. So yeah, no, I don't think it's the hustle paradigm, to be frank with you.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm just trying to see, because you talk about how if you're in your work zone, you want to work until 10 p.m. And I'm just wondering, is that the life that you would really like or really love if you're working until like 10 p.m. on your weekdays? Or is it that's not really the life that you want, or the business life that you want?
So I go between. So sometimes it's like I like to do that if I'm in the flow and I'm feeling inspired. And then sometimes I would like to finish earlier on. So I don't think I want to do it for the rest of my life, but I believe for the next 2 to 3 years, if I go hard, build a multi-million-dollar empire for me, set up my family for, not having to worry about finances. Yeah. So I think that's sort of the thing. It's like, give me 2 or 3 years. I just need to go hard. Everyone just needs to get out of my way and just give me the time and space.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So does that also mean for your spouse to also get out the way as well while you go do this? Just curious.
During the time that I have work, yes.
Okay. And is this then where the clash happens because you're like so focused and they're struggling to adapt to this focused version of Anna?
Yes, that focused version of Anna, which is very mission and self-focused, which doesn't have a lot of space for anything other than work and mission and
Okay. And you don't want to, I don't want to tell you how we're all in different phases and stages of life. And I don't want to change anything that you say I really love and but is that really truly what you want?
I'd say for the next 2-3 years. Yeah. Because I know how it makes me feel so filled up. It makes me feel so accomplished. And I think that's something that I really want to do myself justice. Because when I'm in that mode, like things happen in big ways. So for the next 2 to 3 years, yes.
Okay. So how specifically does it serve your partner that you're in this inspired, focused on yourself, going to build this multi-million-dollar empire? Like, what's the benefit to them specifically that you are focused, inspired, driven?
He would see that and take and perhaps reflect on his own business, because he's in business doing the same thing that I'm doing. So he would see that and learn from that and perhaps be inspired to expand his thinking. Or
but tell me, Anna, does it inspire his thinking?
Does it inspire his thinking?
When you're
yes,
it does. And so when you're working until 10 p.m. and you're inspired by what you're doing, he then gets inspired by it.
By what I do, or by what
you're doing? By what you're doing.
I don't know if he cares about what I'm doing, to be honest. Yeah. Because I mean, he wants me to be happy, but I don't think he cares about the intricacies of my business. He's just like, as long as you're happy, I'm happy.
Okay, but that might not necessarily be true, because you have said that there's conflict when you are in that state.
Yeah.
So that statement that he says, I want you to be happy, isn't true then if you are fighting and butting heads when you're in that version.
Correct.
So how else does it benefit him that you are inspired, focused, on a mission?
Well, he gets time for his things. He gets to spend time with his friends. He gets to watch what he wants to watch. I often would see him, just like filling his time with things that really are valuable and important to him that I don't find valuable and important, but it's his thing. So I guess I know that he would fill his time with his highest values.
Okay, which isn't you?
Yes, his highest values does include me, and that's why there's conflict.
So then how again does it matter? Because then because there would be a part of him that he gets to go and fulfill his friendships and his other things that are meaningful to him. But how does it specifically serve him if you're off, focused, inspired, think physically, mentally, socially? What's the benefit to him?
I mean, this is hard. What is the benefit to him? Financially, I get to take care of him more. I would contribute to our holidays. I get to contribute to fancy dinners. So it's almost like we get to have more quality experiences outside of when I'm working.
Okay. And is that important to him?
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So you're certain, and then with the quality time, is that important to him?
Absolutely. It is. Yeah.
Okay. And do you also value that as well?
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
And how does that serve? How does the quality time where you go to nice restaurants and you spend time on holidays, like how does that help your business?
that fills me up, and it feels like we have more quality conversation that feels more inspiring, than that reinforces my positive energy and my inspiration, my capacity to think about different things. And so it feels like it puts me in the best state to do my best work, because my partner, my best friend, and I are sharing such beautiful moments together.
So are you starting to see the connection then between you loving what you're doing, and then also as you do that, it helps him, and then you get to earn more money, and that as a result you get to have more experiences, which then helps you in work, but it also helps you in your connection with your relationship with him as well.
Yeah,
so they're like intertwined together. They're not separate, but intertwined.
I think the thing that comes up that feels like a block is like when I'm working at that level and capacity, my perception is that he will get insecure or feel like he's not doing enough, or feel like I'm shining a light on, I'm just at a different cadence and level in my business. And so I feel like he gets feeling unworthy, or something comes up within him.
Can I share a little light into what's actually going on? So your partner is, your partner is a reflection of you. So all the things you say about him are all the things I hear you're actually saying about yourself in business. I feel insecure. I feel like, those are the things you were somewhat describing in the very beginning. They're actually how you feel about yourself.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
So you're like inspired, you're doing what you're doing, but there's also a part of you that's feeling insecure of like, can I really do this? Can I really make this happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's very accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think in that I'm in a bit of a high, so perhaps I'm not as conscious to that insecurity. I'm just, life is amazing, everything's good. I'm a little bit polarized on the other side of, being more self-exaggerated.
Okay. So is it possible then that the inspiration is not inspiration, or it is inspiration? Because you said before, like you wanted to work until 10 p.m. when you're in that inspired state, but is it inspiration, or is it, you just described it as self-exaggeration? So I'm just curious.
Yeah. It feels, is it inspiration?
Belle's asked a beautiful question, because if it's stuff that fills you, why would you want to stop doing it in 2 years' time?
So that is just my more around the material gain. Like I want to make as much money in the next 2-3 years before I become a mum, and before I my timetable just wouldn't allow me to do that, because my mum duties would probably take a priority.
Okay. So that's okay. So coming back again then, are you focused on inspiration, or is it more attachment to that outcome of like, I have to make the money inside of my business?
Yeah, it's definitely attachment.
Okay. And so what's the drawback? What's the drawback right now to your business of like working on that as the end goal within your business? Like you're wanting to make lots of money. Like what's the drawback for you?
It's more centered on the money making rather than the mission and the long-term vision. I don't have the 10-year plan, and it's still a short-term game if it's 2-3 years, which means that I'm more doing it for like the instant gratification. And so I may compromise my brand and certain things that would allow me to play the game for a really long time, because I'm in it for the short-term wins. The money chasing is very much it's very emotionally taxing. So it's almost like I'll get the money one day, and then the next day there's no money, and then it's just like, ooh, they're up and down.
And what does that cost you in your relationship then, this up and down, or the chasing of the money? What's it costing you inside of your relationship?
So much. It's costing me the consistency, you know, one month I might be in a really great state and I feel super lit up, and then the next I'm not, and I'm moping around at home and questioning everything.
Is that based on money? It's like, if I made money, I feel good, and when I don't make money, I feel terrible.
1000%. It's very much linked into the extrinsic, the money. Yeah.
Okay. And so what else is the drawback of that, of focusing on the money aspect of the business?
You know, the work that I do is centered on transforming people's lives. And at times I've seen people as, you know, like having an income benefit to me. And I will work with people who aren't as aligned. And then that compromises my energy. And then I'm not fully in integrity because I'm working with someone who's not really compatible. It's more about,
So I want you to just sit with that for a minute, like having to choose clients then that at times don't resonate with you of how you or who you want to be serving, but serving them because you're getting paid, because it's going towards your ultimate, your goal of being settled financially to have a family. What's that costing you in your spirit, in your soul, to be focused that much on money?
Definitely my soul's expression. Like, I'm again trying to think of commercially sound things rather than what my soul deeply desires. So I don't listen as much to my intuition. I don't feel as inspired. It feels very much more coming from a place of force at times. I get just in this mood of like self-exaggerated, like, oh, everything's amazing, and I want to spend it all as well. I'm not saving it and cherishing that money. And it's just costing my spirit that real peace internally, because there's just such a link to my worth, my value as a human, to the money I make.
So can you see then that as you've grown, potentially then as you've grown your business and you've made your most amount of money, did you feel like it was force or power? Did you feel like you had to do a lot to receive it? Or did you feel like it was more you in your most expressive state to achieve it?
I think earlier this year I was in my most expressive state to achieve it. But when I had the biggest month, there was a lot of force there for sure.
And so that's understandable then, if you force something to get there, and then there's also pride and exaggeration around it as well. I can normally tell if someone's going to have the worst month they've ever had is after they've had the best month they've ever had, and they tell lots of people about it. They tend to have the pride before the fall dynamic.
1000%.
Yeah. Okay. So, and what effect does that have? Like, if you're if you're feeling a sense of dissatisfaction, even though there's the external pleasure of getting a lot of money and making a lot of money, if there's your soul's not feeling abundant or feeling expressive or feeling like you're listening to your intuition, how does that affect your internal energy and your life? And how does it affect your relationship?
It creates a lot of heaviness in my energy. It creates a lot of not trusting of my own self, and having to, my pattern has been to outsource my power, look to other people to get the answers, because I don't trust, part of me doesn't trust what I have to say. The heaviness is, the energy just makes me feel like, I have to operate from a place of force. And then that impacts my relationship, because I'm not my best self. I'm not shining my light as brightly, and he's having to, it's almost like caretake for me, like look after me, make me feel better, rather than us uplifting one another and working on, bigger things, rather than just taking care of Anna and her low energy state.
Okay. So when you're exaggerated and high from making money, is that when things get really rocky in your relationship as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So could you see it's possible then he's your self-governor? So it's not that the relationship is terrible, and it isn't that you're each time you focus on business that your relationship is falling apart. It's actually that he's your equilibrator instead of you being the one to self-govern and regulate yourself and go, oh, here we go. This is a high I'm in right now. This is me being exaggerated, but ground yourself again. That he becomes that stabilizer for you, or the equalizer for you.
1,000%. I can really see that. And I think I've really battled with that in the past, but I know it to be true, because I would ignore certain things. I would.
And when you say certain things, what specifically are you referring to?
Like I would get really spendy. I would want to buy all the things at the store. I would invest in all the courses. It was like money was just flying out the door. And I was like, nah, it's not a worry. And when he would question me on it, I'd be like, no, don't worry. I'm going to have an even better month next month. And, so it was definitely that kind of that high that I was in. What else would I ignore? What else? A big one was like the house and, making equal contributions to the housework and dishes and, cleaning up around the house. And again, that was coming from, but I'm doing all of this work, it's almost like my work is taking precedence over the housework. And so all that sort of thing, I was just getting,
Yeah. So are you starting to see then that the pattern is then when you go into self-exaggeration that you get him or that your work is so important that you get him to come in and challenge you on that. So unless you learn to self-regulate, the outside world, if you do it in your inside world and you learn to balance out yourself, then the outside world doesn't have to do it for you, or your partner, spouse doesn't have to do it for you, or your family members, or the market, or potential clients don't have to do it for you because you've internally regulated yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, what would be the benefit then of you? Oh, so how do you think you could go about doing that? Like, what are some questions that you think that you could ask yourself to self-govern yourself when you're in? Because one of the things I ask in our maximum growth classes is, how do you know that when you're puffed up and elated? Most people I can totally tell you when I'm depressed. I can tell you when I'm sad. I can tell you when I'm feeling down and out, give you all the symptoms, all the feedback and how I feel and what I'm internally thinking. Then I ask, well, how do you know when you're puffed up and excited and feeling like you can conquer the world in a very exaggerated sense? Most people I don't really know. And so how would you best describe that experience for you?
It's a sense of I can do anything. I'm invincible. I can do a million things in one day. And I can repeat it over and over again with no issue. I can spend all the money and I can trust that it'll come back to me. Things like that, really, where it's just,
So do you think that it could be possible as a coach and accountability to yourself that those can be a checklist for yourself? Or I don't know if you're not a checklist kind of person, that you could do it in like a beautiful PDF that's, nice and pretty. I don't know, however you do it. So that you could notice, okay, here I go. I'm in this feeling like I can conquer the world and I want to work until 10 or 11 or 12, whatever it is at night, that I just feel like I could do this again and again and again. That might be feedback to go, oh, hang on, I'm starting to, or I am in that high state. And then you can start to look at, well, what's the drawback of this? What's the cost of this? What's the drawback of working so late? And start to see the opposite side, the cost of all of that, to help self-govern, and also come back to because do you have a deeper purpose of why you do what you do rather than just about money?
Yeah, for sure. It's centered on helping women take up space, men and women, so that they can go and make the impact that they desire in the world. So they can, not make it about them and actually, be the one to lead the revolution. So yes, it feels so deep and meaningful. And I know that I'm very good at what I do. It's just, I think social media and certain other things, and also my conditioning of my parents always say to me as soon as they, pick up the phone, is like, how's your business doing? Like how successful, like, have you bought your property yet? And for me, that's really a centerpiece of what I've been defining as success. Is like, unless I've got all the money, I'm not really that successful. And I feel ashamed.
Then how else could you define success, or how could you redefine? Well, is even success the metric that you want to be using? Because if we define success comes entangled with failure. I remember that I used to think when I had a Nokia flip phone, I was successful. I'd made it because I could flip it open. It was like, it's so cool. And then it's like, I thought I'd made it when I had a car with electric windows and I could roll down and I didn't have to like manually roll it down anymore. I don't know if you no, but you could press the button and there it was. Like, that's when, or when I built my first property, I'd made it. Well, our levels of success are changing all the time. And so, and when we have it, I don't know, some people who've studied so hard for their degree and they think, okay, I'm going to be successful now that I have my degree. And then they realize when they get the degree or their piece of paper, they realize there is so much they don't know. And the next level of success, you're constantly chasing success. Sometimes it can be actually more wiser to have fulfillment as the outcome, because fulfillment is like a flame that starts once you find your thing, the thing that lights you up the most. You build it and you build your fire and you start building it, and fulfillment just continues to grow and grow and grow. And isn't something that has this like element of like, I've got it, success and failure. It's like fulfillment is the thing that will burn brighter and longer. And you're also willing to embrace the hard and the easy, the challenge and the support, the difficulty and the effortless together in the pursuit of it, as opposed to going, well, if I'm good, and then also it's not attaching like a monetary amount, because I know, because then as soon as you have it taken away from you, are you no longer successful? If you lose it all, are you no longer successful? As opposed to fulfillment, no one can take fulfillment away from you.
Yeah, and I've really had a lot of connection to fulfillment in the past, I think. And so, yes, I truly believe fulfillment is it. And I think somewhere along the road, I got a little bit skewed off my path and made it more about, income generating things and building an empire and all of that sort of thing, which I do want. Like, I do want to have not an empire perhaps like based on money, but it's like, I want to be able to touch the lives of millions of people. And I believe I can. I don't know how to get there with fulfillment at the center point, rather than expansion and growth and trying to make an impact.
Okay. And so this is maybe one of the journeys that I notice a lot of people in business go through. And this is the stage between doing and being. So you're focused on the doing right now. I've got to do more in order for it to be successful inside of my business. I know that when people own the traits of the greats, when they apply the DeMartini method on the people that they've looked up to and they own that within them, the vibration that they send out to the world and the opportunities that come because they become magnetic from that is far greater than them going and doing all this extra work, because you become it, your vibration changes, you get new opportunities that come your way. It's a more, but I'm not saying don't ever go do anything, because you still need to do some action inside of your business, but there is a lot of power that you can have by becoming the individual that you talk about, and then seeing how your business can transform. I know for me personally, if I want my business to grow, I go and apply mindset work on my own life, and then business shifts and changes. And then I believe it more in the power of the mindset work and how much it shifts. And therefore, when I share it with clients, I can also sell it to them. Well, I don't even need to sell it because I believe in it. So it's just my certainty in it is there. So I know that, so what would be the benefit if you could focus on being rather than doing inside of your business?
So again, I've definitely had an experience of this. The benefit is my energy speaks for itself, and that is what people are really drawn into. That's what people find really attractive about me. It's almost like my work is the least important thing. It's like they're just interested in me as a human, and that naturally makes me say things that feel really interesting, or like people want to understand more about. And so it's an effortlessness. I'm not locked up in my head trying to say the right thing, trying to do the right thing. I'm just being me. And along the course of my day, I have the right conversations with the right people, and it just leads to expansion and growth.
Okay. And then if you're being you, does that also mean that you're being you when you're working, and you're being you when you're in your relationship with your spouse, and you're being you when you're having a shower, and you're being you when you go to the gym, and you're being you no matter what? So it isn't like you're working and then you're not working. It's just you're being you, and you happen to get paid for it.
Yeah.
How would that feel?
Really liberating, really freeing, and a lot less pressure on me, on my shoulders.
And how would that feel in your relationship?
Really nice. Like, I feel like we'd just have more fun, and we'd have more laughter, and I'd just be able to seamlessly go from work to being with him, and it wouldn't have to be the whole gear change. I can just be myself with him and share about my day, and I just feel like our conversations would just flow a lot easier, and we'd just be able to enjoy each other's company without trying to say, oh, you're being too much, or your energy is too high, or whatever. It's just like we can just appreciate us as we are.
So how does that feel as an outcome or a focus or something that you can work towards in your relationship?
Very good. I would feel like that could shift a lot in the relationship and the business. And I feel like I wouldn't have the fear every time the business is going well that the relationship is going to suffer, and vice versa, that the relationship is going well and the business is going to start to suffer. It's just like, as I deepen in me, my relationship gets better, and so does my business, and they both just expand because I'm being me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have you found today helpful?
I have. The question that I have is like, so do I let go of the money making stuff and the money goals that I've set for myself per month? Like, what's your take on that?
So you're still attached to the outcome of money being a success measure, and that's okay. Sometimes it's our attachment to the outcome that actually causes our suffering. It's our attachment to it. So sometimes it is, you know what, I'm just going to let it go and just focus on service, focus on you being magnetic, and then allow the byproduct to be money. So rather than money being the focus. Because if you make money the focus, people do at some stage end up picking up on that. Not saying that you shouldn't, you should never have a focus on money. It's just that you want it to be meaningful, the money that you make. And maybe that's partly why you can't seem to hold on to some of the money then when you do earn it, is because it's not as meaningful because you're just focused on the end outcome. I would focus on you being magnetic, you being in flow with yourself, you being inspired, and focus on that, and focus on applying the mindset work that you do inside of your business, and then just notice the differences that it makes. Like you said at the beginning of the year that you had felt like you were in the most flow that you'd been in. And how is finances then?
Yeah, amazing. Really amazing.
Yeah. So I would focus on that.
Okay.
So you can you can still have goals. Don't misunderstand me, but don't let them be your focus.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And so, yeah, no, I feel good. I feel my body just seems to be a lot more calm, and my head has just quietened. Like there's so much noise going on before, so I feel good. I just am like, oh, is it this easy? Like,
well, it is. Anyone can, if you be yourself, you will make money.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's when we start to do what we think we should do, and we live outside of our truth, then we don't make money. If we do a service that's not really our love, we get challenged. I would also consider that, there's something that I just remembered in the very beginning. You also talked about how you had an 8-hour day. And so, and you just couldn't be able to do that. There's somehow that you need to also structure and change the way that your business is run in order for you to be able to grow it as well, because something isn't sustainable if you're doing 8-hour days and you are not loving it. Then there must be either a way that you shift it so that you charge more, or that you have more breaks, or whatever it is, or that you do shorter sessions, or you say no to more clients that you actually don't want to be, because maybe your 50K was actually made up of clients, maybe half of it was made up of clients that you didn't really want to work with. And so saying no to people is actually going to create a more not enjoyable, but more inspired 8 hours, because you really love that 8 hours of coaching. And so it's a very different experience doing and saying yes to clients that you genuinely love to work with, and then more fulfilling to be able to grow a business like that as well. So I would also think from a logistical, strategic point of view, how could you actually grow the business as well?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Fulfilling for you.
And one more question, the point around like the self-confidence that's sort of been knocked as a consequence of the lack of money, is that, that's because I've been attached to the money, and that's why my confidence is knocked. Okay, got it.
You have to learn to create your confidence is, so we all want to focus ultimately on confidence anyway, because it's like you want to have certainty rather than confidence, because confidence, like success and failure, confidence and lack of confidence is also transient. So we want to focus on, am I certain, am I doing the service I love? Am I certain in the service I can deliver? And create and focus on having certainty rather than wanting to feel confident, because then we can get into that trap of overconfidence, which then
got it. So it's certainty that I should focus on, or get to focus on, because it's that, and that comes from just trusting my intuition and aligning myself with things that I truly believe in.
Yeah. And then also saying, you could also say no to clients rather than yes to every client.
Yeah, totally get that.
Feeling, do you have any more questions? I think do you have any more questions?
No, I actually don't. I'm like, I already know what the answers are going to be. I know. Yeah, I get this. Noble deeds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel really good.
Thank you so much. So thank you, Anna. So team, I would love to hear from you, from being a observer on attendee today, or if you're listening to the replay. I'd love to hear from you in terms of your insights, your learnings, your own reflections of the dynamic with Anna. Focus on fulfillment, says Craig, which he loves it. Definitely. Lexi.
So this whole experience tonight reminded me of myself 7 years ago, and I was broke, had no money, worked at McDonald's, wasn't going anywhere, and I actually convinced myself that I had $50,000 in the bank, even though I had nothing. And in 5 years' time, I had $56,000 in the bank, because every day I walked around pretending I already had that money that I wanted. I already had that empire that I wanted. So throughout the time that I did that, I stopped and asked myself questions when I would go buy stuff or when I would help people out, and I'd be like, okay, I've got $50,000 in the bank. Would I buy this? Would I choose to do this? Like, how can I be wise about investing this money, even though I had nothing? So yeah, it's like, it just reminded me, like, it's all a mental game, and like, yeah.
So the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined.
Yeah.
Although what I would suggest is in our maximum growth classes, part of the process that we use when we're applying the DeMartini method is to look at what you perceive in the outside world and own that to the same degree within you. And so when you do whatever it is, if you perceive someone to be self-disciplined or focused or knows their purpose, whatever the trait, action, or inaction is within that you perceive in them, and you own it within you, there's no more having to fake it until you make it, because you own it, you know it. There's 100% certainty. And so, because people can feel that there's a disconnect between, like, I'm a billionaire and a billionaire, for example, and not quite feeling it internally. And you've got to say it maybe a billion times before you actually believe it. But this process allows you to actually ask the quality questions, to feel and experience and embody it and know it and realize it. And that changes your experience in your world as a result as well. So thank you, Lexi. Leanne said, so valuable and relevant to me. So thank you, Anna and Tanya. So Narelle said, how do you know, so the question she loves is, how do you know when you're puffed up? And I would highly recommend that you spend some time, if you haven't yet already spent some time, unpacking what that is for you, so that you can know. I know for me, I have a tendency I notice it in my speech, where I will speak faster and more rapidly. There can also be a tendency to share sometimes a little bit more. If it's something I feel prideful on, I'll share a little bit more. Sometimes those are my instant feedbacks to let me know. So Jean-Paul is the reminder that people I have conflicts with maybe, or are regulating my life, if that I don't self-govern, instead of us being judgy on them, we can self-reflect and go, hang on, how are they playing a part in this dynamic to humble me or help me to balance myself out. Alexa there were quite a few questions I'll take some time to answer for myself, like, what does success look like for me? And focus on certainty, not on confidence. What service do I really provide that I feel fully inspired by? I know that most coaches in the very beginning of their coaching journey do go through a stage where they say yes to everyone, or majority of people, because you kind of don't really know what you want to do or who you do want to serve. So you go and trial and experience working with different types of clients with different types of problems. And then sometimes you can be sparked up by, oh, I thought I really loved this, and then this client presented with this problem, and that's actually something that I feel more inspired by. So sometimes it's a trial and a test and learn experience to find out and figure out who it is that you'd love to serve. And sometimes we can also do that with our purpose as well. One of the things I'll ask a teenager when they say to me, or an adult who's trying to figure out their purpose and what they want to do with their life, is, what do you not want to do? Because sometimes it's in knowing who you don't want to serve will also help you get clearer on who you do want to serve. So it crosses out the list, like, well, don't want to do that, don't want to do that, don't want to do that. And then your options get smaller and smaller. So Anna says, thank you so much everyone for your presence. This is really helpful. I'm going to give my partner a huge hug and look at what we can change towards our service versus income. Louise, hey Louise, such a beautiful reflection, reminder for me of the journey I've been on, and how being me and choosing fulfillment, letting go of forcing and needing to do all the time, has led me to more than I could have ever imagined. It is that being instead of our doing. It's not like it's the whole idea of I want to have a Lamborghini, and it's not like you just sit there and you go, oh, I'm going to be all the things that vibrate a Lamborghini, and it's just going to turn up on your doorstep if that's the thing that you're looking for. It's not like that. You still have to do some level of action, but it's not such a forced action that's out of desperation, that if I don't do all of this work, and the moment I stop doing all of this work, my business is going to fall apart. That's not sustainable, and that's not creating a life that's really that you love as well, because then I have to work really long hours in order to achieve success, for example. So Alan said, what would be the quality questions you would ask yourself to confirm that you have the same trait that you feel is missing within you? So you would first identify what it is you perceive someone else to have that you don't, that you perceive to be missing. And then you have to identify clearly what that is. So it could be focused on a purpose, for example, as something, or knows their purpose, for example. And then you would have to go to moments then within your own life of where and when have you perceived yourself to know your purpose. And so you would go back through your entire life from the moment you were born until now, where you've known your purpose. And we have to look at what that word, say, for example, purpose means, because purpose can be, my purpose today is to wake up and to eat. That's my purpose right now. My purpose is to know what my family or my daughter is doing today, and I'd love to know how she's going. That's a purpose. Another purpose can be that it's to learn a new language, and that's a purpose. So our purpose, we sometimes can put this massive pressure on what purpose should be. It's this magical mystery box that we're supposed to try and figure out what it is, and we've got to sometimes spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. But what happens if purpose was there was multiple small purposes that we're doing in our everyday life? And so when you start to wake up that and moments that you've had that level of purpose, then you can also be more awakened to perceiving maybe a bigger purpose in your life as well. So that's the question. You're going to find where and when you displayed or demonstrated the same that you perceive in them that's within you. You can also come to Maximum Growth classes, because we have those questions and we ask those level of questions that you get an opportunity to watch a demonstration and apply it for yourself in class every single week. So it's very inspiring. If you haven't yet joined our classes, I would highly recommend, because you get an opportunity to, one, learn how to apply it more thoroughly, get to see and own more within you. You get to be self-regulating, so the outside world doesn't have to do it for you. You get to be part of the beautiful community of other business owners and I see the conversation you guys are having, and coaches, for example, who are applying the DiMartini method as a strategy for them to be able to grow themselves and grow their leadership as well as grow their business. So thank you for asking that question, Alan. So team, I would love to hear, we've got Pavel said, oh yeah, Emma said, I love builds my empire. So authenticity is profitable, which is very, very true. All right. So I want to thank Anna for sharing with us tonight her inner world and being vulnerable and open to share what's been going on in her mind, and particularly talking about the pride dynamic as well. You know, most of the time people feel more comfortable talking about the things they feel shameful about, but it's not often we get an opportunity to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I feel like I can conquer the world, and be able to have an opportunity to explore that side of mindset. So I deeply appreciate you for sharing with us. So team, I hope that you can take away from today some realizations that can impact your own business, your own life as well as a result. I want to thank you for taking the time to come to the class. If you haven't yet checked out our Maximum Growth classes, we are actually going to be closing the doors, not forever, just for our twice a year. We're going to open them so you can come in and join our year-long membership. But if it's something that you have thought about doing and wanting to come and join, I'm going to put the link in the chat section, or it will be in the bottom of the replay underneath. So if it is something that you would love to join, it is $99 a month, or it's $1,000 for the year. So hopefully I will see you in class sometime soon. And if not, I will see you at the next perfect time. Thank you, team. And we normally hang out for an after chat afterwards. So if you want to hang on for that, feel free to stay on. So if you have any questions, any comments, any queries on this topic or a different one, feel free to ask.
Thank you for the DVDs, CDs, Tanya.
You're welcome.
Love them so much.
Welcome. Steph.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you for that. And thank you, Anna. That was so synchronous. Just a quick question, because as we go through like our journey and empowering all areas of our life, etc., the financial one often seems to be the one that we kind of, or at least for me, I feel, oh my goodness, I've really got to get the finances, because that's, you know, that's one way to demonstrate I'm empowered. So, you know, and that it has to be a significant amount of income, etc. It has to be seven figures, 8 figures. So in that respect, is it, again, taking that off the focus in terms of focus on the service, focus on the journey, focus on the path, and that potentially becomes part of it, rather than, or for example, if someone has a high value on business and therefore generating 7-8 figure businesses, that's going to be their thing. Like, because it's so, you know, I don't know. I'm not getting the question, but I'd like the answer.
I hear you. So it's similar. It's a similar dynamic with Anna in terms of really like the focus is, or there's a desperation in terms of wanting to make the money, or which also then indirectly is showing that you perceive there to be a lack of money. And so that means there's a perception that you are struggling, you can't sell your service, that there would be a deeper issue at play. And the result of that is I'm struggling with money. So I would question what's underneath, what's the problem underneath the problem that's driving the fear of, or the lack of having enough money. And for you, what do you have an idea, an inkling what that might be?
No, Tanya, because like up until, you know, fairly recently, there's always been enough, like, you know, and I've gone through phases of being able to save, etc. For me, had I known what I know now back then, potentially things would have been different in terms of the methodology of saving for the long term, etc. But I've never lacked money. if that makes sense. I mean, I have had moments, particularly when I was going through the challenges in terms of my daughter, where I almost created the situation of not having money type of thing. Even though there was money there, I almost refused to access it because it was family money.
So then why do you focus on a lack of money? Maybe there's not going to be enough money. So where does that come from?
Well, perhaps it's that cultural thing as well, that it's the, I'm supposed to be at home taking care of kitty wings and stuff like that, and therefore not focusing on a career. But there hasn't, I mean, now I sort of perceive the lack of money as in, okay, if I had more, there'd be more opportunities, there'd be more, we'd improve like where we're staying and that sort of thing. So there's the perception of the lack in that regard. And perhaps that, that whole focus of I'm having to do to earn it type of thing. Like I'm having to, it's not just there, like, okay, if I couldn't do what I'm doing at the moment, that there's something there. So there's this thing of I'm constantly going to have to keep generating it type of thing. But even then it's like, okay, but I know I have the resourcefulness to be able to do that. Maybe there's this sort of illusion of, okay, I'm going to get to a certain point and I'm not going to have to work for it,
and maybe that's part of it, of driving and feeling like, well, one is in terms of finances, you need to have a number. Like if you go, there's a lack of, well, how much money do you need? And then also if you're looking for an end goal of like being financially free or financially secure, whatever the terminology you want to use, it's like, what does that look like? And then if you're going to strive for it and focus on it as an outcome, you at least have a tangible target that you're working towards. Then if you feel like there's a lack, then maybe there's also a perception that there's a lack of service or lack of being able to serve more people. So you could put focus back on serving more people. Sometimes people have a lack because they perceive that there's not enough, or there's so many coaches out there, for example, and who wants to come and coach with them? So the lack of isn't, the byproduct is a lack of money, but the deeper issue underneath it is actually a lack of certainty that they can serve the clients that they have, or that their niche is specialized enough, or there's a flood in the market or everyone does online coaching, whatever it is, they don't feel unique enough. So that can be an issue. Another issue is that there's a lack because each time they get money, you end up going and spending it because there's all these things you want to do with the money, but not actually have a value of actually growing wealth and growing financial stability and security. So that can also be the deeper issue as well. So I would really encourage you to find out what's underneath all of that, like driving that lack, because that would be the thing that I would consider addressing first. And then the lack of money is so see the lack of money as a byproduct.
And could a lack of time, because I'm kind of thinking, like had I started 20 years ago, the picture would be different. And so for me, it's very much, I'm sort of racing against the clock type of thing.
But therefore you're perceiving a lack of, you think that in order to grow wealth, it's a time thing to grow wealth. And therefore that's then going, well, I've only got this amount of time left to work. Therefore my ability to grow wealth is smaller, which therefore there's a lack. Most people, I mean, I think these days, I'm not exactly sure, but something like we're going to live to 100 and something, 110 or something. So therefore we currently have, what's the retirement age? Like
67 in the UK.
We're getting closer to 70. It'll more than likely continue to be pushed back to 70, 75 if we're living much longer. And then it goes, well, how long do you really want to work and how long do you really want to earn for? And so some, you know, if you're in your 50s or your 60s, you potentially still have the best years of your life ahead of you if all physical cognitive is going well, because you've got so much experience behind you. And so seeing it from that perspective, it's like, well, there's not a lack of finances and a lack of income potential, because you have decades ahead of you to be able to go and do something that you really love and enjoy, like you get a lot of fulfillment out of.
So Tanya, just like as a starting point, like going through clear the fear in terms of, okay, what's driving the lack, and really like when you did the voids thing, that was so super helpful, because I was kind of like, oh, it was the lack of support, it was the lack of support. And when I was going through the questions again the other day, it was like, no, actually it was the lack of direction. Just so going through that process again and going through those questions again could be.
Well, that can, so we did a class recently, which was the voids value connection. So it was being able to, which is only $8 on the Maximum Growth website. So it gives this opportunity for you to be able to define a purpose and a career and a focus for you by looking at what you perceive to be most missing that drives your current value, that then you create a vision, or you create your service, your products and service around that. So most of the time we look at what do you value, and what are you prioritizing, what are you spending your time, money, energy on today. But what is really enlightening, if you want to know where you're going in the future, is to look where you've gone, but you know, what's been meaningful in the past, and figuring out what's actually driving your values today. And when we can figure out what is driving your values, or what you perceive to be most missing, then you can find a career and a vision in the future that's aligned with the thing that you perceive to be most missing. And if it be direction or leadership, and your current role and your current values are showing that you're focused on like leadership development, for example, and then you create a vision, and your fulfillment around your clients and how you serve your clients and what you want to do long term is around growing leaders, for example. Therefore, your void matches your value today, which is matching your vision of the future. And therefore you can, because you're being yourself, you are fulfilling the greatest void with the greatest value, creating the greatest vision for your life in the future. You'll make money if you don't have any roadblocks around money and all that kind of, so you clear all this stuff around money as well. It's not just that, but you have the greatest inspiration to make money.
That might be another masterclass coming up.
Yes, so another one to do. So thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So where is Narelle? So I see she's still, yes, here we go. So I see.
My query is around, you spoke about the self-governance, self-regulation, internal regulation. Is that all the same or different?
All the same. So if you remember that we have 4 ecosystems which are balancing ourselves out. So we have our 2 internal and our 2 external. So our 2 internal is our intuition and our body. So they are giving us our internal regulating. If we are feeling a bit cocky, or we're feeling a little bit excited, it's like, oh, look at the downside. What's not okay about this? It's your intuition whispering, or your body does it for you. In the case of if you get excited and you think, oh, I can play this sport like I used to play when I was a teenager, and then you go and play and you get like, you do your hammy or something. It's like the body is balancing out your aggrandizing and humbling you. It's doing that internal balance. And then we also have our friends, our colleagues around us that is also helping us to balance. That's the external. And then also the shit happens, that the crazy kind of stuff that happens where you like walking and you run into a pole, or you like trip over, or you do stuff that's just this like kind of extreme kind of dynamic to get you back into equilibrium. So they're the ecosystems that are helping us to self-regulate, or helping us to self-govern if we don't do it. Okay, so self-regulation, self-governing is the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that's the benefit of applying the DMART. I mean, there are many ways you can go and self-regulate and go and self-govern. The one I love the most and I promote the most is the DMartini method, because it's something that, one, when you know the questions, you can go and do it yourself. You don't need someone to go and apply the questions for you when you know the questions to ask yourself. So you can start to go, hang on, and you know how to apply them and ask them, because it's the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you ask and the quality of answers that you provide. So it's not just about giving answers for the giving answers sake, but you want to give quality answers that are going to give you the result of like opening your heart, and therefore self-governing, and therefore you can stay on purpose and path. Essentially, you're not going to get swayed by the outside world, or the outside world doesn't have to sway you to get you back into balance. All right. So Lexi is spot on with the answer. Practical creates confidence. I am. So when does the MG close? So we're going to close on the beginning of October. We're going to close until April, and then we'll reopen again in April. So it is something that you want to do. Come and join us before September. We've got a couple more months before we close. So any extra questions before we wrap up?
Just a quick reflection, Tanya, because I think the other flip side of the equation that I had was a lack of certainty in being able to serve everyone that came through. It was almost like I had so many people that I was like, oh, I'm going to drop the ball. Like, I'm really nervous. I'm nervous about screwing it up. And so I didn't have certainty that I could sustain that level. And lo and behold, I couldn't, or I didn't, because of that belief. So I guess the question is, how do I overcome that belief around not being able to sustain the level of service that I was providing?
Sure. So a part of that is also self-regulating, because if we go into a session and then we have the best session, they have tears and they have a heart open and we like, oh my gosh, that was really amazing. Guarantee you the next one's going to suck. The next one's going to be like flat. Nothing happens. You can't even move the needle just a little bit and it's just because our pride is actually affecting the pride of that we have in our perception that we have from the last session is actually affecting the next one. And so the same thing, if we can learn again that self-governance, the questions that I asked before when I asked you, well, can you notice when you're high, and then you could start to self-govern. The same thing happens that we can do inside of our sessions and also inside after our sessions, is the more that we can self-govern and self-regulate. So if we feel down and depressed and go, oh my gosh, I did not serve them, I failed, then we have to ask, well, where did we serve them? How did I help them? What was the benefit of what I did? Or, what lessons might they get later on down the track? Because sometimes we can get attached to having the outcome show up in the session. Yet sometimes for some people, they need to process things. They need to think about it for a little while. Something else might happen. Then all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, now I get it. It was a bit slow, but then I got it. I was like, oh, that's like profound. And so if we can sometimes think that it's the take no credit, take no blame, just stay focused on chief aim. So if we take credit inside of a session, we're also going to have to take blame inside of a session. So we really want to focus on what's the end outcome and result. And then also at the end of the day, you're with the client for 1 hour, once a week. They're with themselves. You can give them what you can give them, but then at the end of the day, they're with themselves for the rest of the rest of their week. And so how much responsibility do you take for their outcome, and how much do they also have to take responsibility for their own outcome as well?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Thank you. That was really helpful.
Okay. Right. Yes, we have new forms. I have uploaded, the DMartini method has new forms. So if you haven't yet seen them, they are in the Students of Wisdom Facebook group. So if you just jump onto there, you'll be able to download the latest. So whenever I get the next latest, I'll upload them. So you will always have the latest version of the form on the Students of Wisdom site. Facebook group. All right.
Hey Tanya, sorry. Were there meant to be 2 forms on side C? Because I only saw 1 form uploaded.
Oh, really? I'll have to go,
Yeah.
let me go check it. Let me double check it. And then
Yeah, thank you.
The one that I have, and then see if I can upload the latest one for you.
Amazing. Thank you.
That's okay. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, team, for coming along. I hope you can take some lessons and learnings from that. And I look forward to seeing you at the next perfect time. All right, take care, guys. See you. Bye, Emma. See you, Narelle. See you, Barbara. See you, Don. Bye. Bye, Marcia. See you, Belle. Bye.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you.
See you, Lilia. Bye. See you, Alan. Bye.